So maybe it wasn't really the people, it was more like the institution and the situation that was a problem. But in general, like going around to different places, oftentimes the organizer or people I meet will be like, oh, you won't be able to do the kind of work you do here because people here are not friendly or people here are not receptive to that kind of thing. Wherever I go, you know, like it could be New York or Kentucky or France or something like that. And then it never turns out to be true. Like I'm always work with people, find somebody that I'm able to work with. Like it's never happened that an entire like culture or society is opposed to, you know, engaging in a project with me in some way or another. I just haven't found that. That's it, so much.
And so you work with master's students?
Right now, at Portland State, that's sort of the primary thing I do. I always teach an undergraduate class also, but I have a group of about 20 graduate students who are both in Portland and remote. And so we always do, we use Google Plus, and so we'll have these like 10 people on a video chat in a class.
Yeah, right.
That's great.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we've got a student in New York, one in San Francisco, one in San Antonio, one in Pittsburgh, one in Santa Fe, one in Berlin, one in Portland. He's moved to Portland since then. And the way the program works, it's a 3-year program, and the students can be in Portland or away at any point during the 3 years, so they don't have to stay, or they could switch. Like we have a student who'd been in New York for a couple of years, and then he came to Portland this term so that he could teach. And then everybody has to be in Portland for 3 weeks in May. And we do a bunch of intensives and have a conference and a project with the Portland Art Museum and stuff like that. But it's interesting. It's definitely not like any other master's program that I've ever experienced in a whole bunch of different ways, but one of them being this like using this technology, which we just like, you know, use just like consumer grade stuff. Like it's nothing fancy. But it's also allowed us to have adjunct faculty who are also not in Portland. So we'll have somebody who teaches at Berkeley teaching a class, or someone who's in New York, and be able to have both people who teach at other universities and artists and museum people and all sorts of different, someone who runs the education program at MoMA has taught classes in our program. So we're able to really have like a wide variety of different kinds of people who aren't already in Portland. We're not like limited by that, I guess. So that's been really exciting.
Super interesting. Did you start that? Did you initiate that course at that university?
Yeah. So let's see, I've been teaching there. This is my 9th year, and we started it 6 years ago. 2007. Yeah, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
What were you teaching before you started that?
Well, I got hired on to teach sculpture / new media, which I never quite knew what that was. And I told them early on, I was like, I don't really make sculptures. I don't know how to like weld or do anything like that. And they're like, that's okay, whatever. But they gave me just regular sculpture classes, and I just taught them in really weird ways. Some of the students were really frustrated with, some were really into it, and other ones were like, why aren't we in the wood shop, or why aren't we building things like that? And I'd have them making things out of like tape or something like that, and they would just be irritated because they wanted a sculpture class in some sort of traditional sense. It was also a very sort of traditional art department when I started there. And so then I had been saying all along that I wanted to teach this other thing. And at that time, the term social practice didn't really even exist. And so, in an art sense, and even though there was lots of precedence for that kind of work, the terminology academically hadn't happened. And so I had been pushing that I wanted to do that, and then an opportunity presented itself that was basically like a bottom line issue, which was that the